Hi there, this is Matt with State of Flux, and happy Friday the 13th, everybody. We got another one of my Friday the 13th reviews coming at you today. This time, we explored Deadite Jason in Jason Goes to Hell, the final Friday. And this film is wretched. It is a foul, mean-spirited, ugly, violent, crass piece of shit of a movie that also has a lot of elements that I kind of like and respect. The biggest of which is the fact that it tries to do something, establish a lore for Jason that wasn't ever really there prior to. And the best parts of this film are the stuff that you as an audience member kind of piece together, right? It's the fact that they find in the Jason homestead, which we are just now visiting 9 films in, the Book of the Dead from The Evil Dead and Army of Darkness and all that stuff, that gives you the suggestion of that's why Jason's back in the first place. Pamela Voorhees witnessed her son die, or wasn't present for that, and used this to revive his body that she didn't even necessarily know was successful, and he was raised as this crazed person in the woods who then was unable to die, but was able to commit the vengeance that his mom started out with. All that stuff is far more interesting than anything actually in the text of this film, but the subtext is there and I appreciate it. Much like Freddy's Dead, The Final Nightmare, which this film does, is same studio, they both riff on the same general ideas. They bring a lore to the character that was never present from the get-go. A reason for why these characters are a lingering threat that are incapable of dying. Here we see like the weird deadite snake thing that is in the film. And it was a weird choice, I must say, to have Jason killed in the opening scene. It's a great, grand, epic opening scene. Probably the best part of the movie, even though it's really underlit. Me singing the praises for that are pretty light. Anyway, it's underlit, and the death of Jason there is kind of neat. And then you have the coroner doing the autopsy on Jason, where then his spirit, his heart, continues to bleed, and for some reason the coroner is compelled to consume that heart, and Jason lives once more, now as a body-hopping entity trying to get back to his host form, which he needs to kill an ancestor of his or somebody within his bloodline in order to revive into a new body or his old body or something. I don't know. It doesn't make a ton of sense, but whatever. Similar to Freddy's Dead, it's creating this whole lore that overcomplicates something that's as simple as he's just an unkillable monster. Like, I've come to accept it. That's all I needed. We don't need that explained to us 9 films deep. If that was coming to you at any point, that should have been in 1 or 2. It's too little too late, too convoluted, and it messes up kind of everything that came before. Like, what is Jason's motivation in, like, part 6? Or part 5, if he's just now searching for his lineage. Like, it's just weird. I don't like it. Positives. I think this is the best looking Jason. Either this one or number 7 has Kane Hodder in his best look. But killing off Jason and then not having him show up until the very end, so much so that in this 95-minute movie or whatever, there is literally 7 minutes of screen time of actual Jason, was an interesting choice. I don't know why they went that direction, but they sure did. And they committed. They pot commit to that. And I can see how that would rub a lot of people the wrong way. The film also introduces us, and I have a suspicion as to why. It's an unverified suspicion, but it introduces us to Creighton Duke, who is the first actual interesting, compelling character of this franchise. I'm not going to say he's like the first good character, because I like the heroine of Friday the 13th 3. I love the heroine of Friday the 13th 7. There's a handful of people that I think are good characters, written well enough or established well enough that I accept. This is the first one that is compelling, that you want to know more. Creighton Duke, every moment he's on screen, is absolutely fascinating. They do nothing with him. But I think his inclusion here is a soft nod to Halloween, which at the time of its release, if you'll remember, Halloween 5 would have been the most recent film to come out around that time period. And this film is doing work to connect to other horror franchises, right? I mentioned the Book of the Dead from the Evil Dead movies. Freddy has a cameo at the very end, played by Kane Hodder, by the way. So Kane Hodder, the only one to play Freddy and Jason. But the ending of Halloween 5 had Michael Myers get rescued by a man in sort of like spurs and a cowboy hat, the Man in Black. And I'm almost wondering if this was a nod to that, because there was absolute mystery surrounding that character, and obviously they couldn't outright say it was that character because different studios and stuff, but if I had to guess, that's where Creighton Duke came from. But he's the best part of this movie, even though his introductory scene is bananas. His description of Jason as being a little girl playing with a donut, with a hot dog and a donut, yeah, that's a strange thing to say. This movie's bad. The final girl and final guy of this film are just genuinely uncompelling. Like, the guy looks a lot like Egon Spangler, but somehow less masculine. And having him be your heavy hero character in a Letterman jacket was weird. Nobody is a particularly gifted actor in the film outside of the dude playing Creighton Duke. You also have the dad from Critters. He's pretty solid in his couple of scenes. But this film is so violent and so crude. And sure, like, it's neat the body horror effects that they put into this film still hold up really damn strong even to today. Like, I feel like you could release this today and people would accept that. It's hampered by its time, obviously, from the just general look of the film and the like hairstyles, but if you ignore that, the stuff displayed on screen holds up to today in like kind of a genuinely jaw-dropping level, but also to the point where, how did this get released in theaters? Even the R-rated cut of this movie is really, really crude. And I could see why people would not like this. I remember I used to collect cards, like trading cards and stuff like that. And I collected the Jason Goes to Hell trading cards when I was like, 7, 8 years old. And my friends' parents would yell at me for letting their kids look at that. And looking at this movie now, like, yeah, I'd probably get pissed off if somebody showed this stuff to my daughter. It's kind of effed up. But yeah, I don't know. The thing that I found the most compelling about this movie is that it's awful. When they ultimately send him to hell, it kind of works. The final showdown with Jason isn't as epic as, say, the diner shootout, which I think is really cool. That's sort of like, the director described it as like a John Woo moment in the middle of a Friday the 13th movie, and he's not wrong. He had ambition, and I think this is the best part of the movie, is that the director has the ambition to do something big, grand, and with scope, but he has a screenplay, which he helped contribute to, that is just void of genuinely interesting ideas or characters that you care about or matter in any way. Yet, while watching the film that I despised, I was just so turned off. I put on the making of featurettes, especially on that the Scream Factory release, where you have like that 45-minute interview with the director. And he is really engaging to listen to. Like, that's a dude that I feel like I would like to sit down and just pick his brain. Like, I could easily have a chat with this dude. And the thing that I would recommend to you about Jason Goes to Hell is watch the making of and superlative material that are on the discs, the extras and stuff. That is fantastic. The movie itself is just awful. Though I had a friend in elementary school who, this was her favorite of the Friday the 13th films. That could have been recency bias. This was like 1995 or whatever. But she really, really loved Jason Goes to Hell, and she would like tell me that she would watch it and stuff all the time going home, and she and I bonded over horror movies and things like that. But it also got me excited to see this movie, to the point when I eventually did see it when I was younger. I was like, that was the one that she really liked. Yet I do I'm so conflicted with it because it's so bad, but I do have to commend them trying something new and different. It feels like too little too late, and there's an established formula with these Jason films that even 7 and 8 were trying to break away from, but the fact that they do break away from it is what rubs you ultimately the wrong way. Sometimes it works a little better than others. I happen to like 7 quite a bit. I really don't like number 8. But this follows that same trajectory of number 8, where it's just so different that it doesn't work. And putting Jason into a different scenario and having it not necessarily even be Jason, though I do like those mirror tricks, it's an unusual film. And I can see why this was the end of the franchise for a while. The fact that there were still a couple of entries left, we have 3 more of these films to go, is kind of crazy. Because this, to me, says, we are so out of ideas, we're just going to switch genres and make this not even a Jason movie. Let's try something different. And you can also see how little care that... I know that Sean S. Cunningham is back on to produce, but putting this movie next to the original film, it's like they're so monumentally different that you cannot even see how this is part of the same franchise. And this is a similar argument that I could make to Freddy's Dead, but here it's far more egregious. And, I know he was trying to desperately hold on to the rights to Friday the 13th, and if this is the stuff that he produces, and if you look at the movies he did produce when he had his hand in the Friday the 13th films, you kind of wonder why. It's not like he has reverence for any of this, so why does he want to hold on to it so badly? Why not give it to somebody who actually cares? Because it just doesn't appear that he does. Anyway, that's my little micro rant. What do you think of Jason Goes to Hell? I know this is not a well-liked movie. The fact that... Last thing I'm going to talk about. Harry Manfredini comes back to do the score after being absent for, 7? Maybe he was absent for 8 as well. He was definitely gone for one of those pictures. He comes back and delivers the worst score of the franchise. It sounds somehow cheaper than any of the other ones ever did. And there's not a single moment where the score works. It sounds cheap and dated, and it's kind of the summation of the franchise to this point. The next time we talk about Friday the 13th, which I think is next month, I think we have another Friday the 13th next month, folks, is going to be Jason X. And I'm very hesitant to even watch it, because I don't have pleasant memories of that movie, and my understanding is that I had pleasant memories of this movie, and of 8, and of 7, and of 6, and all of them I found underwhelming compared to my memories of it. I'm already underwhelmed by that movie. I'm horrified to think of what might come from it. But I do hear the silver lining is that it holds up as pretty great camp, which a lot of these other Friday the 13th movies didn't for me. Though I did like 6 and 7. Ultimately, my memory of them was that I liked them more than I ultimately did. That's, I guess, my complaint. What do you think of Jason Goes to Hell, the final Friday? Do you list positively with it? I know some people do. Thanks for watching. Like, subscribe, do all that good stuff.